Hello and welcome to Justin Talks Sports. We've got a big Sunday in the NFL to recap, one of the craziest ones I've seen in a long time. Colt McCoy wins a game. Le'Veon Bell turns back the clock. Adrian Peterson turns back the clock. And some way, somehow, the Chicago Bears figure out how to lose a Monday night game. Crazy, crazy Sunday in the NFL, as well as the Monday night game. And we're here to break it all down on Justin Talks Sports. I am the Justin and really excited to talk to you guys today. Going through week 8 in the NFL, week 9, I'm sorry. What a week it was. And it starts with the Thursday night game that seems to be so mundane, the Colts and the Jets. Who cares at all? That was certainly what I thought. And then Jonathan Taylor goes up and puts up 3 touchdowns, 145 yards, blows the doors off everybody. And suddenly you're thinking maybe this Colts team, Derrick Henry's out for the Titans. Maybe this Colts team does have a chance. Tennessee puts that to bed on Sunday night. That AFC South division is theirs. They don't care that Derrick Henry's gone. Adrian Peterson fills in. They bring in a couple running backs off the bench who honestly probably should get more of the praise. Peterson gets 10 carries for 22 yards but scores the touchdown at the end. 125th touchdown of his career. He's one of just 11 players all time to do that, further cementing his place in Canton as a Hall of Famer. I gotta say, I didn't think that we'd be talking about Adrian Peterson in week 10, but that's the kind of season this has been. Really, 6 division winners came into that Sunday morning and afternoon windows. They went 2-4 combined. It was a wild, wild day, especially in the morning windows. Going one by one through, Cleveland just blows out Cincinnati, mostly without the help of Baker Mayfield. He got the job done through a couple deep balls, hit Donovan Peoples-Jones on a deep post over the middle that kind of iced that game. But he was not what was the catalyst for all of that. It was a couple bad Joe Burrow interceptions, one down near the end zone that was taken back 99 yards by Denzel Ward. It was mistakes by Cincinnati that allowed Cleveland to take control. And the Cleveland defensive front just dominating up front. And this is how Cleveland is going to win in the future. Baker Mayfield is not going to be the reason that this team wins a Super Bowl or contends for one. But I think this team has the ability to contend for one because when its defense is healthy like it was this week, really for the first time in the season, this is what they can do. And so that was exciting to see. Another one, Dallas comes in. They've looked as good as anybody. Come in with one loss. Denver is... I have been more of a Denver believer than I think a lot of people, and it's because I'm more of a Teddy Bridgewater believer than I think most people are. I don't think he's a Pro Bowler or great or anything like that, but I do think that the guy is a competent, startable NFL quarterback who can take you to a playoff game, and if you put the right pieces around him, can take you in on a playoff run. I think that's better than what most people think he can do. And I think that he showed that he's capable of that today because he played well. The defense played well, put Dallas in a lot of issues. I don't think that Dak Prescott was fully healthy and back because this offense looked, at one point Dak was 6 for 19. The offense looked completely out of sorts. And a lot of that credit needs to go to the Denver defense. They trade Von Miller this week to the Rams, seemingly waving the white flag. No way. Really a cool bounce back for this Denver team. And Bridgewater ends up throwing for 249 and a touchdown. And I'm telling you, keep an eye on Bridgewater and this Denver team. This is a team that can sneak into one of those last spots in the AFC. That AFC West is brutal right now, but you've got a Raiders team that cannot seem to keep anybody out of the headlines, be it Gruden, be it Henry Ruggs, or now they had to let go one of their former second-round pick today. One of their cornerbacks had to let him go for a nasty-looking Instagram video. This is drama. Scandal continues to get around this Raiders team. And if that continues, look for Denver to slide in with how shaky Kansas City's offense continues to look. I'm just telling you, keep an eye on what this Denver team can do with the receivers and the talent, Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, that they've put around Teddy Bridgewater. And with Melvin Gordon running the football, these guys have been able to make some plays. I do quite briefly, Miami beats Houston 17-9 in one of the ugliest football games you'll ever watch. The first time ever that 2 different 1-7 teams played each other in the entire season. A combined 9 turnovers. Dolphins win 17-9. Enough said. Atlanta beats New Orleans in another wild one. New Orleans, this is a completely different Saints team this season, and it's a big reason why I'm not concerned about the Seahawks making the playoffs. This New Orleans team with Trevor Siemian / Taysom Hill playing quarterback is not the same team as Jameis Winston playing quarterback, and Jameis Winston playing quarterback was not the same team as Drew Brees playing quarterback. They have taken 2 noticeable steps down now, and I am very doubtful about this New Orleans team making the playoffs. And Matt Ryan turned back the clock one more time. Really interesting was reading that Matt Ryan's 36 years old. I feel like we think of him as older than that. I certainly did. I thought of him as a 38, 39-year-old guy who I couldn't believe was still out there. He's actually younger than Aaron Rodgers, which is hilarious to think about because I think we think of Aaron Rodgers as still an in his prime quarterback, and I don't think Matt Ryan's thought of that way. He showed that he still has that. Arthur Smith called him an awesome game. Arthur Smith was a fantastic offensive coordinator in Tennessee, and I think is one of the most underrated play callers in the league. And it's why Atlanta, I think, is going to be in every game from here on out, even without Calvin Ridley, who stepped away from the team. So, again, so many topsy-turvy results. The Giants beat the Raiders, right? This is a Raiders team that was leading the AFC West. Suddenly, that division is thrown into complete chaos, and the Chargers beat the Eagles. So, I mean, everyone in that division is basically equal at this point. I don't know what to say about the Giants other than it was good to see Daniel Jones have a day and get something done for him. But at 3-6 at this point, even Dallas losing today, the lead Dallas has in that division, this was a Giants team that was not building. I mean, they were not making decisions thinking about the future. This was a team that expected to win this year with some of the moves they made in the offseason, the money that they spent, the defensive players that they brought in, and they thought they were building around this young core with Daniel Jones and with Saquon Barkley, and they're simply not doing that. They haven't been successful. Barkley has been much too injured, and Jones has not been the franchise quarterback that they thought he was going to be. I think he has been the quarterback that a lot of people thought he was going to be when he was drafted. Regardless, big for them to get a win and turn things around. Bad loss for the Raiders and how competitive that AFC West division is. But go back to Atlanta. Massive win that keeps them in that AFC South. They are just a game behind the Saints. And at the very least, they're not going to lose the tiebreaker because they got that win today. Massive win for them, so they're just a game behind. And watch out. It was really fun to see Cordero Patterson basically playing running back. Teams have been trying to figure out how to use him for years. Is he just a kick returner? Can't really play receiver. How about we just hand him the ball? How about you just straight make him the running back? That's what Arthur Smith has practically done. And then they split him out wide, and he makes essentially the game-winning catch at the end of the game, gets him down into field goal range for the winner from a boy Young Ho Koo, who puts it through for the W. I don't know if I've ever been this excited by a 9-6 game, but Jacksonville beats Buffalo 9-6. No touchdowns. They actually missed a field goal as well, so it really could have been 12-6. I continue to feel really bad for Trevor Lawrence. I don't think enough people noticed. They simply saw Urban Meyer at the top of the offense, right? And he has been as successful as any coach in the history of college football when it comes to coaching offense. The spread option largely came from him. At the very least, he popularized it. You can argue about who invented it, but he took it and made it what it was, using it at Florida. You expected him to implement some sort of offense like that when Trevor Lawrence is quarterback, right? Something that he was familiar running some form of at Clemson. Instead, he hires as his offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, as his passing game coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. The thread between those two people, former offensive coordinators of the Seattle Seahawks who were fired for having too stagnant and too boring an offense, who ran conservative, run-heavy, run-first offenses under Pete Carroll with the Seahawks. Those are the people he brought in to run his offense. And so Trevor Lawrence is getting held back by the coaching that he's receiving and by the game planning and play calling that Jacksonville's seeing right now. And if those guys come back next year, I will be very surprised. Regardless, they win the game. Issues for Buffalo, right? This is an AFC that's really difficult to settle out right now because you can't really believe in Cincinnati. They don't have the track record. Baltimore, the offense is, particularly the passing game, far too inconsistent, and you worry about the running game because of how many running backs they lost early in the season, right? And they're one Lamar injury away from that team completely falling apart. You can't believe in Pittsburgh, even though they beat Chicago tonight, because Big Ben can't throw the ball more than 30 yards down the field. You go out to the West, Mahomes and Kansas City have looked thoroughly mediocre on offense this season. The Raiders can't stay out of the headlines, like we were saying, and the Chargers played well today, but have dropped a couple legs. They lost to New England last week, so the Bills seemed to be sorting themselves up to the top of the AFC, and then suddenly they lay this egg today. And I think what's showing itself, I think, in both Buffalo and in Kansas City, is these were teams who last season essentially said, we don't care about running the football. Buffalo, to an even greater extent, they led the league in pass attempts, and the percentage of their plays that were passes, they were first in the league. But Kansas City was second or third. They were right there. And teams are starting to sit. They're simply saying, we are going to take away the over the top. If it's Buffalo, we are not going to let Stephon Diggs behind us. If it's Kansas City, we're not going to let Tyreek Hill behind us. And the quarterbacks are getting impatient. Mahomes is getting impatient. Josh Allen's getting impatient. The teams are not dedicated to sticking to the run game. And I'm the last person to talk about, we need to stick to, continue to pound the rock. I've been I've been watching the Seahawks and Pete Carroll for far too long to actually endorse that idea. However, I think it's what both Kansas City and Buffalo would do well to try to run the ball a little bit more, get defenses to come up, and that would open up those over-the-top routes that have been so successful for them over the last couple of seasons. The last couple to go through, Baltimore holds off Minnesota, another brutal loss for the Vikings, who've lost a couple tight ones in overtime this season. They needed this one, puts them farther back in the NFC North. Green Bay lost today, so they didn't lose any ground. This was an opportunity to gain some ground. And Kansas City beats Green Bay. The entire Aaron Rodgers fiasco is probably its own episode. Regardless, really interesting whether he'll be back to play Seattle next week. They lose this game to Kansas City. Huge win for Kansas City. Green Bay is still right in that race for the top of the NFC. But because Arizona wins with Colt McCoy at quarterback today over San Francisco, they drop a game back now. I got it really interesting. Love Colt McCoy doing what he did. But can we talk about San Francisco for a second? Can we talk about Kyle Shanahan, who I've always thought incredible offensive game planner and play caller. But, he's considered, I think for a couple of years, he was considered one of the best coaches in the NFL, nearly won a Super Bowl. We need to talk about now what's going on here in San Francisco, because this is 2 straight seasons now where things haven't been good. You can point to a lot of injuries, but then your team needs to be deeper, right? John Lynch is the GM, not him, but his fingerprints and his say-so is all over this team. So, really interesting. Do we start to wonder, is Kyle Shanahan actually a good coach? Is he actually taking this team in the right direction? Can we really excuse away a second straight season that seems to be sliding off a cliff behind Jimmy Garoppolo in the offense, and a defense that doesn't have nearly the same impact as it did 2 years ago, which you take away a couple of their pieces on the D-line, right? You lose DeForest Buckner, you lose Richard Sherman in the secondary, and suddenly Robert Saleh is the head coach in New York now, and you don't have the same defense, and that changes this team completely. The last thing to go over, Tennessee took apart the Rams. That game was never close. Adrian Peterson seemed to be drinking from the fountain of youth. I wanted Tennessee to be really good. I was very upset when Derrick Henry got hurt. Really stoked that they were able to continue to play like this, that Ryan Tannehill is playing better than a lot of people thought he could without Henry on the field. Really exciting. Can they continue to play like this? I think they can. I think they showed it against the Rams. I think they showed something that, particularly on the defensive front, the way they dominated the Ram offensive line, that's a blueprint they can use in the future. And if Tannehill can continue to get game scripts like this, where his team, they start ahead, they're able to continue to lean on the ground game, and he throws play action and deep shots. If that's what they ask him to do, he can be as good as anybody, and this team can continue to win football games. The Monday night game, Pittsburgh wins, couple late field goals. Chicago finds a way to lose it. Absolutely awful. The call on Cassius Marsh late in this game for supposedly taunting without saying a word. Someone tell me how you can taunt without saying a word. Let me know in the comments. But an incredibly exciting Week 9 in the NFL. and we'll have a college football episode out today or tomorrow as well. But if you got any questions, anything you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments below. Thank you, everybody. This has been Justin Talk Sports.